Hey guys, Miss Nguyen here with our multi-step equations notes, right? This is really more of a guided practice, so all I'm going to really do is work through a couple of these problems with you so that you can basically understand what we're doing, what we have to do, and so you can do it for yourself. So all this is doing is this combines what we've been doing on our last two lessons. So we're still doing equations where we have variables on one side of the equal sign, just like we did last year in 7th grade. But for these, you will have to combine like terms first, and that's what we learned how to do in the last lesson, 2 lessons ago. So let's look at an example. This whole first page is examples, and then the second page, there is a second page, be careful. The second page has 6 problems you're supposed to do on your own. Okay, so hopefully you can get the gist of it through this. So number 1, we have 4x plus 14 plus 4x equals 38. So our first step is to combine these like terms, right? So let's box them. I like to box the variables in pink and the constants in blue, right? So I saw a lot of kids using the shape tool today. I think that sounds good. Let's do that. Okay, so 4x. Here's another 4x. Okay. These both are like terms, remember, because they both have the same x variable. Whereas this 14 right here is not a like term with them because it's a different, there's no variable. This is a constant. So that means that you cannot combine it. Now this is very important, okay, because you might think like, oh, but there's a 38 over here. No. Okay, and so type this onto your notes so that you know this is extremely important, okay? Like terms must be on the same side of the equal sign. So you can write or type that. Like terms must be on the same side of the equal sign. I'm even going to put some stars around it. That's very important. Okay, so 14 and 38 are not like terms because they're on different sides of the equals. If you want to put this 14 with this 38, you have to use opposite operations. You can't add them. That's not how it works, okay? So that means for this particular problem, the only ones that we are combining are this 4x and this 4x. Right? Which means we're adding their coefficients, so this is 4 plus 4, and we'll have an x at the end of whatever it is. 4 plus 4 is 8, so that means this is 8x. When you're combining like terms, think about it all in blocks, okay? We had these two terms, these two blocks, and now we've combined them into one block. Well, we still have this blue block here, this plus 14. So we're going to put it right next to here. Okay? When we're putting our equation back together again, we're just putting the blocks in exactly the way it's written. So this block says 8x, this block says 14 plus 14. So when we write out our whole equation again, that is now simplified, it would be 8x plus 14 equals 38. Now this is looking like an equation that you know how to work with, right? This is a regular 2-step equation. So when we solve it, oops, step 1 is to get rid of the constants. Our first step should always be to add or subtract. You should never be multiplying or dividing first unless there's nothing to add or subtract. Like if it was a 1-step equation, there's no addition or subtraction, then fine. But in all of these, where if you see a plus or minus sign, deal with that first. So we will subtract, because that's the opposite of plus, subtract 14 from both sides. This turns into 0 and goes away. We have 8x equals 38 minus 14, which is 24. Now we can divide. We have 8 times x, so we will divide by 8 to get rid of it. So we can isolate the variable. We want x by itself, so we do that. This goes away, so we have x left. X equals 24 divided by 8, which is 3. And that's our answer. Okay? So it's important that you go through these and really figure out and box everything properly, right? So here on number 2, for example, these both have an x, so we have 10x, oh, wrong color, 10x and minus 40x. Remember, the sign is very important to know. So this here is really 10x minus 40x, which is 10 minus 40. Okay, so the negatives are extremely important here. So that's why when you do your boxes, make sure you also box the sign. In this case, like the 10x or like this 4x over here on the left and there's no sign, you can assume that it's supposed to be positive. So you can write that in if it makes it a little easier for you to understand. All right, when we do 10 minus 40, we end up with 30x. And then we'll bring down this here that we didn't do anything with. So our equation is negative 15 equals 30x. And from here, it's just a one-step equation. Okay? And you should be able to solve it from there. So the last one that I wanted to go over is number 5, because that one's a little tricky with all the different steps that are going on. So I believe that if you can understand 1 and 2, 3 and 4 are basically the same thing. You know, you just box first. Here, I'll help you out with the boxes. These are two constants, so they're like terms. And this 1/2 b is kind of hanging out by itself, right? But number 5 is kind of tricky. So I'm going to box the ones that have the w's. And I'll box the constants. Okay. So we have two different sets of like terms that we have to deal with now. I'll put these over here, and I'll put the blue ones over here. Okay, so we know that we're going to change these two blocks into one block, right? Negative 5w plus 7w over here is 18 minus 4. Negative 5 plus 7w. 18 minus 4 is 14. So we're already done with this block. It's a positive 14. So we know that this block is just positive 14. So dealing with this block over here on the left, we have negative 5 plus 7 gives us a positive 2w. Okay? So now, in order to get our equation back, we need to put these two blocks back together again. And we'll just write exactly what it says. We have 2w, and we have a positive 14, so that means plus 14, and we still have the equals 28 that we did over there. Okay? So when you're putting it together, as long as you have the blocks in the right places, the order doesn't really matter. So you could have also written this as 14 plus 2w equals 28, and that's fine too. As long as the blocks have the right positives and negatives. Like for example, this here in number 3, I'll go ahead and help you out with this one. It says 8 minus 10, which is negative 2. So we have a block that has a negative 2, and we have a block that has 1/2 b, and this one is positive, right? We know this because there's no, if it was supposed to be negative, there would be a negative sign. So the fact that there's no negative sign tells us this is actually positive. So that means you could write this equation as 1/2 b, 1/2 b minus 2 equals 6, or you could rearrange the blocks and have minus 2 plus 1/2 b equals 6. The order of the blocks doesn't matter, but you need to make sure that the signs stay in the same place. So the fact that this is negative 2, that means wherever you put this 2, whether you put it on this side of the equation or on the left side of the equation, it still needs to have that negative sign there. Okay? So if you're still, trying to wrap your head around the whole combining like terms thing, that's what we're doing here. Okay? So those are the ones that I wanted to go over. This was really short and sweet. This isn't really anything new per se, it's just us combining our knowledge from the last 2 lessons. Okay, so hopefully that helped. I know number 5 can be a little bit tricky. Well, okay, so I helped you out, but on 2, 3, and 5 you still have to solve them, okay? So this is really the first assignment of the week because I didn't really give an assignment for simplifying or anything. So you are responsible for getting this done and turning this in by Monday. Okay. Don't forget the second page. There's a whole page here, and these you're going to have to box them on your own. I've helped you with the training wheels. Now you must ride. Okay. And that's about it. Pretty short and sweet, and I hope that was helpful for you. As we go through this equations unit, it's going to get harder and harder, so if you're ever having trouble, you can always ask me, and I'll try my best to explain it in different ways if I can until you get it. Okay? And that's about it. I will see you in class. Bye!